You know, as a huge fan of hard sci-fi, I just love stories that get their hands dirty with the details. And today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating piece of fan fiction that does exactly that. It's called The Nanite Smuggler. So this story throws us into a world of branching realities and incredible alien tech, all built around one heck of a question. What if you could literally engineer immortality? We're going to really look at whether the main character, a young scientist, pulls this off in a way that feels real, using every single tool she has to save her parents.
And what's so cool about this is that it's not just some random story. No, this is a love letter to two giants of the genre, Isaac Asimov and Jack Vance. It takes Asimov's deep philosophical questions about robotics and smashes them right into the wild, colorful universe of Jack Vance's Alaster cluster. It's an incredible mix.
Okay, before we go any deeper, let's get on the same page. The Nanite Smuggler is playing in the hard science fiction sandbox, and what that means is that the rules matter. The technology, the physics, all of it has to follow a consistent, believable logic. The how is every bit as important as the what.
And that brings us to the big question for today. Does our hero, a nanite programmer named Tyree Watson, actually think and act like a scientist? I mean, when she's faced with losing her parents, does she tackle the problem with an engineer's grit and creativity? So, let's look at this from two totally different angles. First up, let's put on our literary critic hat and look at The Nanite Smuggler, just as a piece of writing, as a story.
And right away, the critic gives the story some serious props. They're impressed by its ambition, the super thought-out tech, and the emotional punch of Tyree trying to save her parents. It's not just a technical manual, you know? It's got a real beating heart.
Yeah, the review points out all sorts of strengths, how it really wrestles with Asimov's ideas, uses the Vance setting perfectly, and handles these heavy topics like nanotech and artificial human copies, these replicoids, with a ton of care. And on top of all that, Tilry herself is just a fantastic, compelling character.
But, and this is a big but, the critic has a problem. From that hard sci-fi point of view, they think that time travel is a weak link. They argue the story's Cedron time stream is never really explained in detail, and that's going to bug readers who want everything to be perfectly, scientifically airtight. This is their main issue.
Okay, now let's completely switch gears. Forget the literary critic for a second. Let's look at this story from an engineer's perspective, like someone who sees it less as a novel and more as a giant, complex system to be hacked.
See, from this angle, Tyree's not doing magic. She's a programmer. She's an engineer. Her quest isn't just wishful thinking, it's a project with a goal. She is systematically breaking down and hacking the actual laws of physics in her universe to get the result she wants. And just look at how she does it. This is science in action, people. She starts with simple nanites and scales up her skills. She hacks into reality simulators to run her experiments. She even creates these telepathic group minds to process data better. And aliens? They're not monsters. They're potential partners with new tech. She uses every single tool available.
So this is where it gets interesting. How does this engineering perspective stack up against the literary critic's complaints? Let's get these two viewpoints talking to each other. Remember that biggest complaint from the critic? The fuzzy time travel rules? Well, the engineer looks at that and says, that's not a flaw. That's one of the most realistic things in the entire story. I mean, think about it. Real-world scientists use tools all the time without a complete 100% understanding of the underlying physics. They care about what works.
And that's Tyheri to a T. To her, this time stream isn't some philosophical rabbit hole. It's a tool. A reality change, something that literally rewrites the past, isn't a scary paradox to her. It's an engineering challenge. She uses it to send data back in time to fix a problem before it even starts. That's a practical, results-driven mind at work.
Now, the critic also felt it was a little unsettling that Tyree was basically engineered to be a good person, that she's incapable of misusing her power. From a literary standpoint, maybe that feels like it takes away her choice, but from a hard sci-fi engineering view, oh, that's the ultimate safety feature.
Her ingrained morality isn't a storytelling weakness, it's a design feature. It's absolutely crucial. In a world where one person can literally rewrite reality, you need an operator with built-in safeguards. Her mind has Asimov's laws of robotics hardwired into it, which makes her the only person in that universe who you could possibly trust with that kind of power.
So where does all this leave us? Does the nanite smuggler actually pull it off? Does it capture that true spirit of science?
I think the answer is a resounding yes. Look, the literary review is right about the story's ambition, for sure. but it's the engineering analysis that really gets to its core genius. The story's biggest strength is how it shows science not just as a pile of facts, but as a messy, creative, relentless process for solving problems.
And that whole process is built on a really solid foundation. The author created a universe with 3 distinct physical domains: hadron, hieron, and cedron. You could just think of them as different layers of reality, each with its own set of rules. This gives Tyri a consistent framework, a logical playground for her to do her engineering work.
And this, right here, brings us to the very heart of the story. As one of the characters says, good engineering is always partly emotional engineering. Tyri wasn't just built to be a genius. She was designed to be stubborn, to be endlessly curious, and, most importantly, to love her parents with a fierce loyalty that would drive her for decades.
And that's the really powerful idea this story leaves you with. It suggests that the scientific spirit isn't some cold, detached thing. It's an obsessive, hands-on quest, and it's fueled by our most profound emotions. So what if the greatest tool we have for hacking the universe isn't a supercomputer or a particle accelerator, but just pure, stubborn, unwavering love?